with it. And I know that some of the comfortness that comes with seeing ourselves represented in organizations, through faculty, through staff, through presentations. And that is how we can help build, I don't like the word minority, so I refuse to use it. The African American community, the BIPOC community, the marginalized community at Miramar College. That's kind of where I'm going to start and stop there.
Thank you, Tarlise. Appreciate you sharing that. Who wants to go next?
Yeah,
Manny?
a couple things. Yeah, no problem. Just like Tarlise said, you know, there's a lot of unawareness to different diversities, which could be improved in many ways. Like she stated, you know, it's welcoming when you see somebody who can relate to you in different manners, not only by, you know, your cultural background, but can relate to you by your struggles, relate to you by your path of walk, you know, your journey. And I think it's really important to always remember that as a student, we're afraid to come to a new class, you know, with a new professor, with new students. It's always nerve-wracking, at least for me it is, when I come in and I see a whole bunch of people that I don't know, especially somebody who's at the front, who's teaching and, you know, who's saying this, that, and that, and we got to follow it. And it's like, you know, you just got to do it because it's what you're there for. However, building that connection with the student would really relieve all that tension. And as time goes by in the classroom, it does. You start making bonds and relationships with one another, which relieves you from all that anxiety. And I think that is what is helpful or could be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Manny.
I just want to piggyback just a little bit on that, Manny, because it's so true. I think professors who aren't scared to share their stories, I think the reason I've had such wonderful connections with the faculty and staff at Miramar is because, yes, we see you in your offices. Yes, we see you in your positions. Yes, we see you with your titles, but you were someone before you got all of that. And I think when professors, students, faculty, staff understand that and remember that, we understand there's a job to be done. And there's certain, you know, guidelines that have to be followed. But I think sometimes setting that aside just to connect with the student, like I stated earlier, as a person and an individual, plays a really big part. And that social anxiety is real inside of classrooms, inside of groups, inside of whatever. But I think, you know, being able to let your guard down just enough, you know, not to lose your professionalism, but enough to be able to connect with your audience. And we're students, we're of all ages. I mean, I'm pushing a number that's quite high, but you know, we're from 18 years old and up. And I think that being able to connect in real life with who our leaders are and who we're following and who we're listening to helps us connect more to who we are as a student, because we didn't just all wake up with wings and fly. You know, it's just not the real story. And I think the real story is what brings the connection.
I just want to quickly add on to that, just that ensuring, you know, an individual student's comfort. I mean, I know it's not like, you know, it's just, I feel like it could be just part of the job, you know, just because I think that brings out the best in them. You know, I know when I'm comfortable, you know, I'll put in my best work, not when I feel forced to. Then I just am like extremely stressed. And then I'm just like, I'm just going to submit this paper. Like if I get a C, it's a passing grade. What is it, like C gets degrees or whatever. Yeah, so ensuring like individual student comfort and there's another word for comforts. I don't want to keep using that, but I think that ensures also like a great group, like working together I just got a new job at Starbucks. So, introducing each other, we all have our like stories. So and we all have to work as a team, it's super high paced. Thank you for the applause. So it's just ensuring that like makes a great team, and then ensures efficiency. That's the word. So yeah, thank you.
I just want to say something real quick. Like Charlie stated, she stated a really good point. I want to follow up. A leader, what a leader is. Whenever we see somebody as a role model, as a student, as just myself, my opinion, I see them, as somebody, I could possibly take a part of and integrate into myself. For example, if there's an honest professor, a fun professor, well, not fun, but like, obviously open professor, then I myself will be open to that one professor as well. It's a two-way thing. They give in, we give in, and I feel like that could be also another important thing to add on. Thank you.
Edward, did you want to add anything?
You know what? I do. And I know that I've been a little quiet, and it's for this reason. First of all, as ASU president, I have a platform to talk, right? So I think it's important to open up space for those who might not have that everlasting platform. I mean, at least for the next year, I'll have it. But getting at what kind of everyone touched at, and going back to the question of, do I see myself reflected here at Miramar? And the answer is yes. Largely white, male, middle income, able-bodied, US citizen. And so yes, I see myself represented very well at Miramar. And I know that things are trending in the right direction, but I think that there's a long way to go, right? For others to be seen, for other voices to be heard. And that is why maybe I was a little quiet earlier, but so I think that in spaces like this, it is important for those who have different experiences and come from different backgrounds to let them speak and maybe take a back seat. So I'm gonna let you guys go ahead and talk a little bit more.
Thank you for that, Edward. And it's great to just hear all the voices, and for you guys really, to share from your heart your true stories and your feelings, and that sense of like, it's important for us, right? It helps guide the work that we do. I'm trying to look at the time and just kind of like figure out, do we have time, Adrian, or?
We're going to go at 11:35, and so we have about 10 minutes.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead and ask the second question, or check to see if anyone has questions from our participants?
Yeah, actually, I'd be curious to see if there's any questions from our attendees. Anything you want to ask the students specifically, and you can either throw it in the chat, or if you want to unmute yourself, you can do that. I see Jay.
Hi, everyone. Thanks to all the students who's been sharing your stories so far and just being so authentic about everything. The question I had is, obviously we're undergoing through a period of transition with some of our classes going back to in-person, some sort of hybrid model. How do y'all feel? Because as instructors, we can only speculate as what students are feeling anxious, nervous, looking forward to it. We're not sure. So we just want to know how y'all feel about, undergoing this transition.
I'm gonna start off this one real quick. As a student, like I stated before, myself, I'm a social person. So as of right now, I kind of feel isolated. With this transition, however, I feel like that will improve into something good, something like networking with one another again, and being able to create bonds, connections, which will really, be a great experience once again. That's how I feel.
I
think-
know.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Tatiana. I just wanted to say it's been an interesting transition. My classes are still all virtual, which is somewhat disheartening for me because I want to be on campus. And the second part about the virtual classes is that, and I don't know what it looks like for the professors, so I'm somewhat throwing the question saying back to the professors as well, is that with the virtual classes, it would be nice if there was a lecture, whether it was a recorded lecture that's put, into the campus shell, or if there was an actual live lecture during, the class time to give it some sort of realness. The issue with the virtual learning is that you have to be an independent student, and not all students are independent students, and that everything is really on you to self-guide through Word. And so I think it can get a little complicated. It can feel really detached. And it just leaves a lot of room for misunderstandings, for mishaps. And, you got a day of communication going on. Whereas if there was some sort of live lecture, we could ask questions in the moment, as opposed to having to wait a day, 2 days, or like myself, just be like, oh, I'll figure it out on my own. So that's something, at least for the virtual world, for myself.
Just want to jump in real quick on that.
Okay.
Just quickly, I'm sorry.
No, don't even worry about it.
But, nope. Okay, thank you. Like Tarly said, not every student is good at being a self-guided student. For me, it works, right? Like I absolutely love the virtual nature of college because I didn't have a very traditional schooling growing up, largely done from home because of health reasons. So this works for me, but I am excited to get back on campus because of all of the other things that go with college life that as a 31-year-old, I never experienced before. And this is my second time going through higher education. So just being on campus and having that, like Manny said, that social interaction, right? And then just also the being on campus, like the physically being there is something that I'm looking forward to. Go ahead, Tatiana.
Thank you. So yeah, I kind of just wanted to share, I guess, my perspective as someone who actually dislikes being on campus. So it's kind of, like I said, this past year has been really helpful for me, just my growth and everything. Actually, my next semester is all asynchronous classes because I feel I work better without or not doing something live, because then I feel like the pressure of having to stay on track and follow along with everything. So I'm not sure if this would even be an option, but kind of having like different methods for students. I know it would probably be a little difficult to accommodate every single student, obviously, but just being able to kind of get a feel. For me, I really dislike Zoom classes. It's kind of like all or nothing, be on campus or not. But I mean, that's why I kind of tried it out with Zoom classes and everything. I think I liked it because I didn't have to drive anywhere. But just having breaks and stuff, because staring at a screen does get a little bit excessive, but definitely having breaks. But yeah, I really do actually like virtual learning. So I think just keeping options open is super great. But like I said, I think for those independent students, keeping asynchronous classes is really great, for people like me.
Yeah, and I would expect that, the colleges, we learned a lot as we were forced to move remote. And I think it's going to be important for us to keep a mixture. What that percentage mixture will be, who knows? But it'll be important to, take all the good things we learned from this and continue moving with that. I see Mary's hand, and then we also had a question in the chat.
So this question is for Manny, and I know I just saw you, Manny, in the CPR class, but as you know, we teach CTE programs, and I'll probably speak for the majority of CTE people at this point, but we have a lot of mandates, we have a lot of constraints But with that, I think that we try really hard to make our programs as student ready and friendly as possible. But what I think isn't always what the student thinks. So could you just give me a little bit of your perspective on that? And then I could share that with my CTE cohorts.
I think as a student, we have a lot of pressure to obviously succeed in a class, whether it be, you know, any sort of class. And that pressure sometimes could be a little too much. The insight, I mean, of a student, obviously every professor, everybody who is here has been a student, so they know what it feels like. But there's at times where we just sometimes are better understood verbally than not than just on hands. I don't know if that makes sense. It's like asking your student if they're okay from time to time. Like that makes us feel well, at least me, it makes me feel more confident, and in my mind I'm saying, okay, this professor really cares about me. So it gives me confidence, a boost of confidence.
You know, Manny, what you said is really important. I'm looking at the question in the chat. All of you were able to manage this transition and have been successful in many ways. All of you have also struggled. We do know that many students stopped attending. What was there to help you make this transition? And then what could we have done differently to help those other students that didn't continue to be able to continue?
I feel like it's a real split. I think there's several things that take part in that. One begins with the student. We're used to, like Tatiana spoke about, you know, coming from high school into college, we're used to everything somewhat still being structured and still being told what to do, when to do, how to do. And when you come to the community college, that aspect isn't there anymore. And I would think, right, really speculating at this moment, for the incoming freshmen who got caught in COVID, that was a hard transition. Probably almost impossible for some who don't have that, I guess, stamina or that teaching or that comfortness to be able to self-sustain. Because if they didn't have that already in high school, they weren't just going to automatically get it with no support beyond, you know, their self or their family to be able to understand how to get it in a college realm. And I think for freshmen, that probably was one of the hardest things, beyond, you know, being remote and being virtual and not having a classroom to go to. I think that that guidance of knowing how to navigate was probably one of the hardest aspects for freshmen. As far as upperclassmen, I really think it came down to a personal preference. I was okay with online learning because I had attended University of Phoenix for a couple of units, so I was somewhat familiar with, you know, the online learning aspect. But what I learned about myself is that not all subjects are easy online. Like my accounting class, even though I knew how to use QuickBooks and I knew how to do the work, there was still some mismanagement, whether it's on my part or the professor's part, whether it's the comprehension or the understanding, but not being able to be there to ask the question in the moment while an assignment is being completed, I think can kind of lead to the confidence kind of going down, like, oh, I thought I could do this. And now I'm feeling as if I can't, and I don't really have the support or the capacity to be able to go anywhere to be able to get that support. And as much, I think it was brought up earlier that we were talking about, the more of the interaction in the virtual realm. I think, again, it comes down based to the student. Some students are okay working by themselves. Some students would like a group support, if students from the class got together to work on assignments or to understand something. So to me, I think that it really came down to the student. I don't think there was anything the staff or the school could have done, because this is a unplanned event that took place in our society. But I also believe that the accommodation aspect from the faculty and staff is what would make the student feel more supported. And I think for those teachers and professors who had a hard time transitioning or didn't want to transition for the benefit of the student, made it more complicated. And for those who did, they were trying to navigate what was best, because everybody's wishes can't be granted, and trying to figure out what the baseline for a majority success would be. I believe personally was well executed in my experiences with my professors.
Yeah, and so eloquently said, Tarlisa. It's so funny. I'm looking forward to seeing you as my colleague one day. So, go and get that degree done, girl. So we are a little bit over in our time, and we always hate this part because, quite honestly, we could spend all day listening to our students and learning so much from our students. So I want to thank our students for being brave and for saying the things you said, and encourage you to continue to speak up. Let us know what you need. Let us know how we can adjust. And I encourage our faculty to keep our ears and our eyes open, because our students are very, very insightful and teach us so much. So I want to thank everybody for being here. We are transitioning back to the main room. It should be in your either in your calendar or your email to go back to that other room, and we'll get started back over there very shortly. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Adrian and Monica. Thank you to the students, Edward, Manny, Tarlise, and Tatiana. We'll see you in the next room. Great session.